At first, the rainforest floor looks empty. A lattice of roots and fallen leaves, still slick from the night's humidity, lies untouched in the dim half-light. But the stillness is an illusion. A tremor runs through the ground cover, not a sound, but a vibration, subtle enough that a human would miss it, yet powerful enough to send beetles and cockroaches scattering deeper into shelter. The camera drops low, and only then does the movement resolve into its true form, a dark, living river advancing across the forest like a shadow with intent. This is Eciton burchelli, the most infamous army ant of the neotropics, and once the swarm commits, the jungle rearranges itself around their march. Millions of workers, nearly all blind, rely on chemical signals to remain unified. Each ant contributes to a pheromone trail that stretches like a highway behind them, constantly refreshed as long as the column remains active. Their bodies are small, but the collective force is overwhelming. The colony is nomadic for much of its existence, surging across the landscape in hunting raids that can extend for tens of meters at a time, then collapsing into a temporary bivouac made from their own interlocked bodies. From high above, the raiding front resembles a burn scar slowly spreading across the forest floor. Anything slow, injured or cornered is consumed. The first victims are usually insects. A katydid freezes beneath a leaf, pressing its delicate body into the substrate, relying on camouflage that works against most predators. But camouflage offers no protection from an enemy that hunts by touch and smell. When the first ants make contact, they latch on with scissor-like mandibles sharpened by evolutionary pressure. These mandibles do not simply bite, they cut. Within moments, more workers pour in, swarming legs, wings, and soft abdominal plates. The katydid thrashes, but the swarm is a weight of sheer numbers, slicing through connective tissue and tendons until movement stops. What remains is segmented, disassembled, and carried away in fragments. But insects are only the beginning. A frog hiding in a shallow depression becomes an entirely different kind of story. Amphibian skin is sensitive, permeable, and, when moist, diffuses chemical cues that army ants detect easily. The frog makes its first mistake by staying still, relying on its natural instinct to freeze when danger approaches. In most situations, stillness saves energy and avoids attracting snake or bird predators. But with army ants, movement is not the trigger. Proximity is. Ants brush against the frog's legs, then its skull, then its flanks. Each contact is followed by an exploratory bite. The frog erupts into a frantic leap, but it is too late. Workers pursue relentlessly, gripping at toes and the soft skin around joints. Their strategy is simple. Immobilize through cumulative damage, then carve the animal into transportable pieces. The frog will remain alive far longer than an observer would expect, long enough for muscle groups to be stripped clean while the lungs still fill and empty. Larger animals have their own problems. The rainforest is full of creatures that rely on burrows, hollows and crevices for safety, but those refugees can become traps. A lizard wedged under a log is unreachable to snakes or birds, but perfectly accessible to the narrow raiding lines of army ants. As soon as the column discovers the scent trail of stress hormones leaking from the reptile's skin, they enter the cavity in a concentrated front. The lizard lashes out, its claws scraping against root fibers, but the confined space amplifies the ant's advantage. They go first for the eyes, the thinnest skin, the easiest entry point, and then for the soft margins of the mouth. The lizard's breathing becomes ragged as ants enter the nostrils, throat, and gular fold. Within minutes, the space is silent, except for the faint rasp of thousands of legs moving over bone. Army ants do not kill with venom or brute strength. Evolution armed them instead with coordinated anatomical specialization. Their mandibles are shaped like paired blades designed to cut soft tissue with minimal force. Their feet are tipped with claws that grip bark, fur, or feathers. Their sensory antennae detect carbon dioxide gradients, temperature fluctuations, and alarm pheromones from both prey and other ants. And above all, their collective intelligence, an emergent property of millions of simple decisions, allows them to adapt instantly to terrain, prey movement, and bottlenecks. Their raids are not random chaos, they are structured offensives. At the leading edge, smaller workers probe for prey. Behind them, medium workers arrive to dismember. Deeper still are porters that carry chunks of meat, larvae that digest the macerated tissues, and soldiers with oversized mandibles guarding the flanks. This division of labor is fluid. Ants shift roles based on age, diet, and environmental conditions. The colony is a machine, and every member is a moving part. Humans living in the rainforest understand this better than most outside observers. Indigenous communities and rural villages do not fear army ants, but they respect them with the kind of clarity that only long familiarity can produce. When a raid approaches a home, people lift anything that cannot move, infants, chickens, dogs, the elderly, onto hammocks or raised platforms. Floorboards shake with the force of the swarm below. The ants sweep through kitchens, pantries, and sleeping areas, cleaning up cockroaches, mice, and leftover food scraps. In a strange way, the raid becomes a crude form of house cleaning. Once the column passes, the home is often free of pests for weeks. But this benefit only comes if nothing living is left on the ground. A tied goat or a weak puppy is viewed by the colony exactly the way it views a disabled rodent, as biomass ready to be processed. There is deep ecological logic behind this brutality. The rainforest is dense with life, but energy is locked in bodies and must be constantly recycled. Army ants are among the most effective nutrient redistributors in the ecosystem. By consuming injured or weakened animals, they remove individuals that would otherwise attract pathogens or larger scavengers. By stripping carcasses quickly, they prevent decomposers from being overwhelmed. Their movement across the forest regulates populations of ground-dwelling arthropods, influencing patterns that radiate outward, from the success of leaf litter species to the availability of prey for amphibians and small birds. In fact, some birds depend on the raids. Ant-following species, like the ocellated antbird, the wing-banded antbird, and the bicolored antbird, shadow the swarm, waiting for insects and arachnids flushed from hiding by the oncoming tide. These birds are not eating the ants. They are exploiting the chaos created by them. Without regular raids, the birds starve. Without the birds, other insect populations explode. The system is knitted together more tightly than most viewers ever realize. But the brutality remains the most unforgettable part of a raid, especially for anyone witnessing it for the first time. The camera sweeps across a patch of forest where a small rodent has been cornered against a pile of roots. It tries to drag itself upward, but one leg is already unusable, bitten repeatedly at the joints. Ants swarm the facial region, targeting the thin skin around the eyes and lips. The rodent's breathing accelerates, then slows as more ants enter the mouth cavity and begin cutting from within. Every twitch is a signal for the ants to intensify. By the time the colony moves on, bones and cartilage are all that remain, gleaming faintly on the forest floor like pale artifacts. Army ants do not revel in killing. They do not choose cruelty. Everything they do is a product of natural selection, refining a simple algorithm over millions of years. Move, detect, swarm, cut, carry. It is a strategy that has survived climate cycles, habitat shifts, and the extinction of countless other species. In the Amazon, powerful predators come and go, but the raiding columns remain. They are the quiet engineers of the forest, clearing, recycling, and balancing in ways that make the entire ecosystem possible. To watch them is to witness evolution boiled down to its sharpest line, a colony that survives not because it is big or fast or smart, but because every member is a tiny, relentless mouth marching in the same direction. At midday, the Amazon River looks deceptively calm. The surface reflects sun glare in trembling sheets of silver, broken only by drifting leaves and the occasional rise of a fish taking an insect. But beneath this quiet veneer lies a world governed by currents, chemical cues, and the split-second decisions of animals that cannot afford hesitation. It is here, under the suspended particles and drifting algae, that the most misunderstood hunters of the rainforest wait. Piranhas, the red cloud that does not seek victims, but responds to weakness with mechanical efficiency. The water itself shapes the first phase of any attack. In the wet season, when the river floods into the forest, piranhas spread out, their schools loosely forming around submerged vegetation. Food is abundant, competition is lower, attacks on large animals are rare, but the dry season changes every rule. Water levels drop, channels constrict, and thousands of fish become crowded into pockets where oxygen falls and predation pressure climbs. In these tight basins, anything injured becomes a biological beacon. A torn scale, a frayed fin, a drop of blood, each chemical trace spreads through the water like a dissolving trail of instructions, telling nearby fish exactly where vulnerability lies. A typical piranha attack does not begin with a feeding frenzy. It begins with hesitation, the brief moment when a school detects an anomaly and holds a loose formation. A wounded tambaqui, disoriented after a predator's strike, flutters unevenly near a muddy bank. Under normal conditions, its size and strength would ward off smaller predators. But now, gill movements are erratic. Its lateral line system misfires, and its body tilts with each attempt to right itself. To a piranha, this is not just weakness, it is an opportunity presented with mathematical clarity. One fish approaches first. It is cautious, guided by electroreception and by the turbulent pulses created by the tambaqui's uneven movements. When it delivers the first bite, the action is almost invisible. There is no shaking, no prolonged tearing. The piranha's jaw structure, built like a vice, snaps with extraordinary force, shearing off a clean piece of flesh. Muscle fibers separate, fat droplets disperse through the water, and the tambaqui responds with a violent attempt to flee. That desperate thrashing is the spark. Movement and blood together form a compound signal far more potent than either alone. The school tightens instantly, shifting from passive observers to coordinated participants. Each bite is small, but the speed is overwhelming. Piranhas operate with a rhythm that resembles percussion, sharp, fast, and devastating when layered across dozens of mouths. They never immobilize prey through grip. Instead, they reduce, turning each bite into a subtraction of tissue until escape becomes impossible. As the bites accumulate, the water around the fish transforms. Blood, fats, and muscle proteins disperse in a red-tinged bloom. This is the red cloud, an expanding chemical advertisement that pulls in additional piranhas from outside the immediate school. In rivers with constricted flow, such as side channels or oxbow lakes cut off during the dry season, this cloud remains concentrated, intensifying the response. Sometimes the density of fish becomes so high that piranhas begin biting one another in the confusion, their own scales and fins nicked as the frenzy amplifies. It is not aggression, it is the cost of hyperstimulated feeding reflexes in a crowded space. As the victim weakens, the nature of the attack changes. Early bites target soft tissue, fins, belly skin, the thin membranes near the head and gills. But once the prey slows enough for fish to approach from stable angles, the assaults move deeper. Mandibles reach muscle sheaths, connective tendons, even cartilage. Bone is not eaten, but it is exposed rapidly, emerging like white scaffolding through layers of shredded tissue. And because piranhas are built for removal, not killing, the prey often remains conscious far longer than an observer would expect. The heart continues beating, even as the supporting musculature disappears. Reflexes persist, even as the skeletal frame shows through. Birds experience a different version of this nightmare. When a heron or kingfisher misjudges its landing and becomes tangled in underwater roots, its thrashing wings create vibration signatures that carry far through the water column. Piranhas do not immediately rush a large thrashing animal. They wait until fatigue sets in. When the thrashing slows, when muscle lactic acid peaks and the bird begins to dip lower in the water, only then do the first bites land. Feathers offer minimal protection. The thin skin at wing joints tears easily. Within minutes, the bird that once patrolled the river's surface becomes part of the river's nutrient flow. Mammals face the most dramatic outcome. A capybara with a leg injury stepping into a shallow channel becomes a prime target. Its blood diffuses much faster than that of fish, and its attempts to wade or swim create strong hydrodynamic pulses. One or two piranhas will test the situation first. If the mammal can move, the encounter ends with a few lost scales or a minor wound on the capybara's flank. But if the animal is weak, limping, intoxicated from fermented fruit, or trapped against submerged branches, then the attack escalates. Bites begin at the softer regions, the inner thigh, the webbing between toes, the thin skin around the belly. Once the capybara collapses in the shallow water, the pace of destruction becomes extreme. Human encounters follow the same ecological logic. Despite popular myths, healthy swimmers are rarely attacked. But historical and modern records show the pattern clearly. Accidents occur when the person is already compromised, bleeding, intoxicated, or trapped in a confined section of river where escape paths narrow. In several documented cases, individuals who fell from boats while intoxicated drifted into eddies where currents pinned them against roots or debris. The struggle activated the exact sensory cues piranhas are built to detect. Rescue teams often found remains that mirrored the same pattern seen in natural prey species: limbs stripped, soft tissues removed, bones intact but exposed. This efficiency is not mindless violence, it is an ecological service. Piranhas occupy the role of rapid recyclers in a system where carcasses decompose slowly under waterlogged, low-oxygen conditions. By reducing dying animals quickly, they prevent diseases from spreading through fish populations. Juvenile piranhas themselves become prey for larger predators, giant otters, caimans, river dolphins, creating a feedback loop that stabilizes the entire aquatic community. Their presence shapes behavior across species. Fish avoid shallow margins during the dry season. Caimans patrol channels differently, and wading birds adjust their foraging patterns to avoid areas where piranha density spikes. Yet, myths persist because piranha attacks can look apocalyptic under the right conditions. When a school converges in a compact zone of muddy water, the feeding event becomes a churning mass of silver flashes and vibrations so intense they generate audible clicks. For a few seconds, the water appears to boil, scales drift like metallic snow. Then, just as quickly, the chaos dissipates. The school reforms into a loose, almost indifferent formation and drifts away as though nothing happened. The river closes over the scene. The only evidence is the faint red haze fading downstream. What makes piranhas so unsettling is not that they are indiscriminate killers. They aren't. It is that their feeding reflex is so perfectly tuned to vulnerability that any deviation from normal strength or movement becomes a trigger. They are, in a sense, the aquatic equivalent of army ants, not hunters that initiate conflict, but specialists that finish it, recycling what the forest or river has already doomed. In a system as vast and interconnected as the Amazon, survival often hinges not on strength, but on the ability to maintain normal function. The moment an animal crosses the invisible line into distress, piranhas respond like a red swirling consequence of evolutionary physics. They are not villains, not monsters, and not the indiscriminate swarm of legend. They are the river's last filter, efficient, precise, and unrelenting to anything already losing the fight. At dusk, the Amazon breathes differently. The heavy warmth of the day lingers between tree trunks, trapped under the broad canopy, while rivers of cool air slide down from the higher branches. As the light fades, the forest becomes a mosaic of shadows and soft silhouettes, and every living thing prepares for the shift that comes with nightfall. Some animals emerge, others retreat, but one creature, small, fragile-looking, and deceptively insignificant, begins its deadliest work precisely in this transitional hour. Mosquitoes rise from still water, damp soil, and moist vegetation by the thousands, their bodies so light they seem almost carried by the air itself. And as the chorus of frogs begins in the distance, a higher, thinner sound cuts across the soundscape. The unmistakable, needling whine of wings, engineered for one purpose: finding blood. Only females feed on it. Males spend their short lives sipping nectar, pollinating plants, and never contacting vertebrate skin. But the females, driven by reproductive biology older than the forest itself, need nutrients found only in vertebrate blood to develop their eggs. And in the Amazon, where warm nights meet oxygen-rich waters and an endless reservoir of hosts, their evolutionary formula is nearly perfect. The camera drifts over a swampy side channel, its surface smooth except for the faint shiver of midges and the slow drift of pollen. Near the margin, a human hand reaches from a canoe to test the water. Within seconds, the air above the skin thickens. A dozen mosquitoes begin to circle, their flight patterns erratic but decisive. They are guided not by sight. Many species here fly well in near darkness, but by a tapestry of chemical and thermal cues: carbon dioxide exhaled from lungs, ammonia diffusing from sweat, lactic acid from muscles, and the radiant heat signature of living tissue. To a mosquito, these signals form a glowing map, pulsing through the humid night, impossible to ignore. One female lands lightly on the skin. Her legs, feathered with sensory hairs, detect surface texture and temperature. She steadies herself, lowers her proboscis, and begins the delicate, horrifying process of penetrating the flesh. The proboscis is not a single needle, but a bundle of 6 microscopic blades housed within a flexible sheath. They slide beneath the skin in a motion so smooth that the host barely feels the intrusion. 2 blades saw through tissue, 2 hold the wound open, 1 searches for blood vessels, and 1 draws fluid upward. Before the first drop of blood is taken, she injects saliva carrying anticoagulants, vasodilators, and a mild anesthetic, a biochemical cocktail designed to keep the meal flowing and unnoticed. Under a microscope, the process looks almost surgical. The proboscis navigates between collagen fibers, probing, adjusting, slicing. When it strikes a capillary, the vessel responds by opening further, tricked by the mosquito's anticoagulant signals. Blood rises through the feeding tube in a steady, rhythmic draw, swelling the mosquito's abdomen from translucent gray to ruby red. She feeds for less than a minute, taking only a tiny volume, but she will not remain loyal to a single host. Unlike larger blood-feeding insects, mosquitoes spread their meals across multiple animals, multiplying the number of transmission pathways for whatever microscopic passengers they carry. In the Amazon, this strategy fuels some of the most devastating diseases on Earth. Malaria parasites, dengue viruses, Zika, yellow fever, chikungunya, Mayaro virus. Each pathogen uses the mosquito not as a simple carrier, but as a biological ferryboat, exploiting the mosquito's feeding behavior to leap between hosts. The mosquito does not suffer from these infections. Her immune system suppresses symptoms, but allows the pathogens to replicate in her gut, migrate to her salivary glands, and wait for the next feeding. Every bite becomes an injection, a microscopic invasion that will unfold over days or weeks inside the victim. The narrative shifts from the bite to the body. Inside a human host, malaria parasites released from mosquito saliva move swiftly to the liver, entering cells and multiplying with silent efficiency. In the first days, there is no pain, no fever, just the quiet expansion of parasites preparing their next attack. When they pour into the bloodstream, infecting red blood cells by the millions, the body enters a cycle of chills, fever spikes, sweating, and profound exhaustion. Dengue takes a different route, attacking white blood cells and turning the immune system into an amplifier of inflammation. Yellow fever targets the liver, dissolving tissue and producing the jaundice that gives the disease its name. Zika travels through nerve cells with subtle but long-lasting effects. Each pathogen alters physiology differently, but all share a deadly advantage. Mosquitoes deliver them in doses the victim cannot detect until the infection is well established. In remote communities along the riverbanks, this biological assault is not a rare crisis. It is daily life. People who live or work in mosquito-rich zones receive dozens or hundreds of bites each night. The cumulative effect is not dramatic at first. Small red welts, mild itching, a bit of swelling. But these bites are not isolated injuries. Each is a potential seed. The immune system becomes overloaded by repeated intrusions. Hemoglobin drops as malaria progresses. Dengue weakens blood vessels, causing plasma leakage and, in severe cases, internal bleeding. Chronic exposure can leave individuals perpetually anemic, fatigued, and vulnerable to secondary infections. Mosquitoes do not need to kill directly. They simply turn the body into an ecosystem that pathogens can harvest. The environment magnifies this danger. The Amazon's hydrological cycle creates perfect breeding grounds. During the wet season, floodwaters carve shallow depressions where still water lingers after the larger rivers recede. These temporary pools, warm and nutrient-rich, become nurseries. Mosquito larvae, suspended like tiny commas, feed on algae and microorganisms, molting several times before emerging as adults. Predators such as dragonfly larvae, small fish, and aquatic beetles feed on them, but not fast enough to control the population. A single female can lay hundreds of eggs, and with millions of females active each night, the system floods with new generations constantly. Some species specialize. Anopheles darlingi, the primary malaria vector, prefers clean, sunlit pools formed at the edges of rivers. Aedes aegypti, which spreads dengue and Zika, thrives in human settlements, water-filled buckets, old tires, and containers left in the open. Hemagogus, the carrier of yellow fever, breeds in water held inside tree holes high in the canopy. The forest's vertical complexity, ground, understory, canopy, creates layered mosquito communities, each linked to different ecological niches and disease pathways. The chapter zooms out to show how mosquitoes shape behavior at every scale. Spider monkeys cover their newborns with their tails at dusk, not for warmth, but to shield them from biting insects. Tapirs seek deeper pools during peak mosquito hours, submerging themselves until only nostrils remain above water. Birds preen obsessively at sundown, coating their feathers with oils that offer modest protection. Humans rely on smoke, long clothing, and in settled areas, mosquito nets, thin barriers that determine whether a family sleeps peacefully or faces another night of slow blood loss and pathogen exposure. But the most revealing perspective is microscopic. When a mosquito infected with malaria bites a human, she not only injects parasites, she injects transformation. The liver becomes a factory. Red blood cells become transport vehicles. Fever becomes a weapon the body uses against itself, overheating tissues in an attempt to halt parasite reproduction. Pathogens hijack organs, immune pathways, and even metabolism. Over time, the victim becomes a walking incubation site, a reservoir that future mosquitoes will draw from, continuing the cycle. In many parts of the Amazon, the boundary between a healthy person and a disease reservoir is measured in bites. A single night without protection can change the trajectory of months. A single infected mosquito can spark an outbreak in an isolated community. And unlike predators with claws, fangs, or venom glands, mosquitoes attack silently, invisibly, and repeatedly. Their danger is cumulative, not instantaneous. They do not drain a body in minutes. They drain it over weeks, collapsing the host's strength gradually until fever, anemia, liver failure, or secondary infections exact the final cost. In the end, mosquitoes do not kill by force. They kill by persistence, turning blood into a transport system for microscopic parasites and viruses that reshape the human body into their own breeding environment. In a jungle full of jaguars, anacondas, and venomous arthropods, it is the tiny winged needle, almost weightless, almost invisible, that claims more lives than all the large predators combined. The Amazon's most efficient hunter is not the creature that takes a life in a single moment, but the one that turns the body into a slow, unfolding battlefield. Night in the Amazon does not fall so much as it descends, heavy, breath-warm, and thick with the scent of wet earth. The forest's daytime chorus quiets, replaced by a layered soundscape of clicking katydids, distant frog trills, and the low hum of insects sliding through the darkness. At ground level, humidity clings to every surface, from rotting wood to the woven walls of rural homes raised on stilts above the soil. It is in these warm, sheltered spaces that one of the rainforest's most discreet predators begins its nightly circuit. The assassin bug, slender, flat-bodied, and almost weightless, steps out from the bark crevices or thatched roof seams where it spent the day. And as the temperature cools and sleeping mammals settle into stillness, this insect's most sophisticated hunting strategy comes alive. Assassin bugs belong to a diverse lineage of predatory true bugs, many of which are renowned for their ambush tactics. Some species spear caterpillars and liquefy their insides. Others stalk spiders inside their webs. But one particular group, the triatomines, often called kissing bugs for their tendency to bite near the soft skin of the lips, has repurposed these predatory traits into an entirely different ecological role: blood feeding. While their bite may seem minor compared to the fang strike of a snake or the scissor jaws of an ant, the assassin bug's method is a masterpiece of stealth biology. The danger it brings is not in the wound it inflicts, but in the microscopic aftermath it leaves behind. A camera glides through a dimly lit rural house, following the faint outline of a bug climbing a plaster wall. Its long, segmented legs move with deliberate calm, each step guided by sensory hairs that detect vibration, temperature changes, and the subtle breath of a sleeping host. Unlike mosquitoes, which whine through the air in a frantic search for CO2, assassin bugs advance quietly across solid surfaces, navigating by heat signatures and the faint chemical traces left by mammals. They do not hover or dart. They approach like a shadow, slow, mechanical, and precise. The bug reaches the edge of a hammock where a person lies sleeping. Here, the skin is warm, exposed, and still. Blood vessels pulse just beneath the surface. The assassin bug adjusts its position, angles its body forward, and lowers its rostrum, its beak-like feeding apparatus. This rostrum is built from hardened, interlocking segments forming a hollow tube. Unlike the flexible, probing proboscis of a mosquito, the assassin bug's rostrum is rigid and sharp, built to pierce with force and accuracy. What happens next is nearly silent. The bug steadies itself and pushes the rostrum into the skin. The puncture is surprisingly deep, stabbing through the epidermis and into the dermal layer, where capillaries run close. Before drawing blood, the bug injects saliva carrying a suite of enzymes designed to incapacitate the site. These enzymes dissolve small amounts of tissue, thin the blood, prevent clotting, and numb the puncture. The feeding mechanism is remarkably efficient. The bug becomes a siphon pump, drawing blood in slow, steady pulses while the host sleeps, unaware that a predator is actively feeding. An assassin bug does not take much, just enough to fuel its nightly activity and to nourish developing eggs if the female is preparing to reproduce. But the danger of this bite is not proportional to the volume of blood lost. It lies instead in what is left behind. While feeding, some assassin bug species deposit feces near the bite site. Under normal circumstances, this would mean little. Many insects leave waste behind as they feed. But triatomines carry a microscopic hitchhiker, Trypanosoma cruzi, the parasite responsible for Chagas disease. Unlike malaria parasites or dengue viruses, which travel in mosquito saliva, T. cruzi does not enter the body through the bite itself. Instead, it resides in the bug's digestive tract and exits with its feces. When the host, half asleep and irritated by the itch of the puncture, rubs or scratches the site, the parasite encounters its opportunity. Microscopic organisms enter through the broken skin, through mucous membranes near the eye or mouth, or through existing abrasions. The victim never notices the moment infection begins. Inside the body, the parasite's path is slow, methodical, and devastatingly strategic. In the initial phase, known as the acute stage, the host may experience mild fever, swelling at the bite area, or nothing at all. The immune system mounts a small response. The parasite disperses. Then it enters tissues where it can hide for years. T. cruzi invades cells, especially those of the heart and digestive system. Inside each cell, it multiplies until the membrane ruptures, spilling more parasites into the bloodstream, which then invade new cells and repeat the cycle. Unlike fast-acting infections that burn hot and kill quickly, Chagas disease is designed for longevity. The parasite wants a long-term host, someone who can continue living and continue being bitten by future assassin bugs for decades. The slow damage accumulates quietly. Heart muscle thins and stretches. Electrical conduction becomes erratic. The organ dilates, struggling to maintain rhythm. Some individuals develop megaesophagus or megacolon, severe digestive tract enlargement caused by parasite-driven damage to nerve networks. These symptoms arise not within days, but over 5, 10, sometimes 20 years. In many rural Amazon communities, people live entire lives unaware that a single unnoticed bite set this progression in motion. The chapter shifts to the ecological scale, where assassin bugs play a role both sinister and essential. In natural habitats, leaf litter, hollow logs, burrows, these insects feed on wild mammals such as opossums, armadillos, and rodents, many of which serve as reservoirs for T. cruzi. The parasite does not harm these species significantly. They have co-evolved to tolerate it. This equilibrium allows the parasite to circulate through the ecosystem without exhausting its hosts. Humans, by entering and modifying forest habitats, become incidental victims of this ancient cycle. Houses built with thatch, wood, or clay provide countless hiding places for assassin bugs. Domestic animals, dogs, chickens, goats, offer consistent blood sources. Many households exist in close association with forest margins, creating ideal conditions for insect movement between wildlife and human dwellings. Yet, assassin bugs are not merely disease vectors. They are also predators in their own right. Many species spend their days hunting arthropods with the same rostrum used for blood feeding. Their saliva liquefies prey tissues, their beak pierces exoskeletons, and their digestive system efficiently harvests nutrients from both vertebrate and invertebrate sources. Some species even practice camouflage, covering themselves with dust or debris to approach prey undetected. Others specialize in ambushing spiders, a difficult task requiring precise timing and deadly strikes. The triatomines, however, have proceeded down a much narrower evolutionary corridor, transforming into specialists that exploit the vulnerability of sleeping vertebrates. As the night deepens, the assassin bug withdraws from the hammock, its abdomen slightly swollen with blood. It retreats back into the cracks of the wall, content for the moment. It will not bite the same host again for several days. It needs time to digest, time to convert the nutrients into egg development or energy reserves. But one feeding is enough. The real danger is inside the host now, beginning a decades-long biological occupation. In the Amazon, threats come in many forms, some loud, some sharp, some massive, but few are as quietly consequential as the assassin bug. It is a predator that takes little but leaves much, a hunter whose weapon is not strength or venom, but precision, stealth, and a parasite that outlives both the bug and the bite. In the rainforest's tapestry of dangers, assassin bugs represent the slowest, most patient form of predation, the kind that turns a single night's encounter into a lifelong biological legacy. Dawn in the Amazon arrives not with a burst of sunlight, but with a slow transition from night's heavy darkness into a dim, mist-filled glow. The canopy, dripping from the humidity of the previous night, filters the early light into shifting green corridors. Leaves tremble with small movements, frogs adjusting position, insects warming their wing muscles, lizards emerging from bark crevices to catch the first usable rays. It is in these quiet hours, when almost everything moves with deliberate slowness, that one of the rainforest's strangest dangers begins to reveal itself. A threat so unassuming, so visually gentle, that few creatures recognize it until it is far too late. On a branch slick with dew, a caterpillar rests motionless. It looks like a tuft of green moss or a patch of lichen blown onto the bark. Its body is draped in soft, feathery bristles, structures that suggest harmless fuzz rather than the biological landmines they truly are. These hairs are not decorative, they are weapons. Hollow spines filled with venom, engineered by millions of years of evolutionary arms races between caterpillars and the predators that seek them. Birds, monkeys, even large insects. Every spine is a microscopic syringe, each tip designed to break off upon contact, injecting toxins into anything unlucky enough to brush past. This caterpillar does not hunt. It has no speed, no stealth, no offensive strategy. Its danger comes instead from stillness, a passive, waiting hazard embedded in the vegetation. The forest around it thrives on constant sensory scanning. Animals check for movement, for shape, for scent. But the caterpillar exploits a different vulnerability, the assumption of safety in the soft and the slow. In an ecosystem filled with fangs and stingers and teeth, nothing about its posture suggests power. And that is exactly why it works. A camera follows a leafcutter ant column navigating a low branch. The ants form a living highway, moving in an endless green procession. When they reach the caterpillar, they veer around it instinctively. Chemical cues tell them the organism is not food, not threat, not obstacle, but a young bird, newly fledged, still mastering the difference between edible foliage and hidden danger, lands nearby. It hops forward, curious, probing the branch for insects. In a single moment of inexperience, it brushes its face against the caterpillar's flank. The reaction is immediate. The bird recoils violently, shaking its head with rapid jerks. The spines have pierced the delicate skin of its face and eyelids, breaking off like splinters. Venom spreads through the tissue, triggering burning pain and intense inflammation. The bird flaps backward, wings hitting leaves. In its panic, it nearly falls from the branch. Over the next hour, swelling closes one eye entirely. The bird's appetite disappears. Feeding becomes difficult. If it cannot forage or fly effectively in the coming days, this small, seemingly trivial encounter may cost it its life. For mammals, particularly humans, encounters are often even more severe. The rainforest understory is dense. Vines and branches force anyone walking through to brush against vegetation. A person reaches for a sapling to steady themselves on a muddy slope. Their palm slides along a branch. At first it feels like a mild sting, something akin to a nettle or stray thorn, but the pain grows exponentially. Within minutes, the burning becomes a deep, throbbing ache radiating up the arm. Redness spreads across the skin, then swelling, then clusters of raised welts that blister. The hollow spines remain embedded, each continuing to release venom. Attempts to wipe or scratch only push them deeper. But even this is only the outer layer of the caterpillar's defenses. Some species, most infamously the Lonomia genus, possess venom far more complex and far more dangerous. Their toxins interfere with the body's clotting system, dismantling the delicate balance of coagulation pathways. Instead of forming proper clots, blood begins to behave erratically, seeping into tissues, pooling under the skin, leaking from mucous membranes. Victims may notice bruising that spreads rapidly, nosebleeds that refuse to stop, or dark urine signaling internal bleeding. In severe cases, the kidneys suffer catastrophic strain trying to filter compromised blood. Without medical treatment, organ failure becomes a very real outcome. The forest shows this danger in more subtle, long-term ways. A capuchin monkey inspecting fruit on a low branch brushes its lip against a venomous caterpillar. The spines catch in the soft tissue of its mouth, tongue and gum line. The monkey screams, pawing frantically at its face, but the spines only lodge deeper. Over the next few days, its mouth becomes so swollen that it cannot chew properly. Food falls from its hands. It becomes lethargic, dehydrated. If the swelling does not recede quickly enough, the monkey will starve, not because the caterpillar kills directly, but because the injury disables one of the rainforest's most adaptable omnivores. This is the subtlety of the threat, a passive creature that can topple an animal simply by being touched. Venomous caterpillars themselves sit at a fascinating crossroads in evolution. Their toxins are not used for predation. They are exclusively defensive. Their ancestors likely developed primitive irritating hairs as deterrents, which became more elaborate as predators learned to overcome them. Over time, these irritants transformed into complex biochemical mixtures. Proteases that digest tissue, anticoagulants that prevent cleanup, neuroactive components that stimulate or overwhelm pain receptors. Some species incorporate environmental toxins into their spines from the plants they consume. Others synthesize their own blends directly from their glands. Each mechanism mirrors a larger ecological truth. In a forest where everything is eaten by something, the smallest creatures often wield the most unconventional weapons. The chapter then shifts toward a wider ecological perspective. Venomous caterpillars do not exist in isolation. They are embedded in food webs that depend on their presence. Parasitic wasps, for example, use these caterpillars as hosts. Their larvae feed on the internal tissues while avoiding the venomous spines. Birds that learn to recognize their colors avoid them, shaping patterns of natural selection. Leaf predation by these caterpillars influences plant growth, encouraging some trees to produce chemical defenses of their own. The spines, though dangerous, represent only one dimension of their role in the forest's intricate machinery. Humans living in the Amazon are acutely aware of these insects' hazards. Stories circulate in riverside communities of people who brushed against a seemingly harmless cluster of little brooms on a tree trunk while gathering firewood, only to find their arm blistered and peeling by nightfall. Others recall more serious encounters, such as children developing unexplained bruises after touching a caterpillar-covered branch, bruises later recognized as signs of lonomia envenomation. Local knowledge plays a crucial role. Avoid leaning on tree trunks in the rainy season. Shake out clothing left on branches. Examine low brush before grabbing it. These habits, passed through generations, reveal how deeply woven these insects are into the lived reality of Amazonian life. But the most unsettling aspect of venomous caterpillars is their ambiguity. Most caterpillars are harmless. Many mimic leaves, twigs, or bark. Some carry bright warning colors, but pose no real threat. Identifying the dangerous ones requires precision, and misjudgment can be costly. This uncertainty leaves both wildlife and humans vulnerable to an enemy that looks soft enough to pick up and harmless enough to brush aside. A final scene brings the chapter's theme into sharp focus. Rain begins to fall, first a drizzle, then a soaking downpour. The caterpillar on the branch stiffens slightly, water running over its spines. A howler monkey moves overhead, shifting through the canopy with casual ease. Drops of water flick from leaves in every direction. The forest is alive, saturated, breathing. Amid all this movement, the caterpillar remains perfectly still, waiting. It will never chase, never flee, never strike. But everything that touches it must pay a physiological price. In a jungle filled with predators that roar, constrict, sting and ambush, the most dangerous encounter here might come from the one animal that doesn't move at all. Dusk spreads across the Amazon like dark dye soaking through cloth, climbing the trunks of towering saber trees and pooling in the understory. Heat radiates upward from the forest floor, rising in shimmering waves that carry scents of fruit rot, wet bark, and insect swarms beginning their nightly ascent. In this humid twilight, one of the forest's most dramatic transformations unfolds, not with a roar or a rustle, but with a sound like tearing silk. From the mouth of a limestone cave, a vortex of wings erupts. Tens of thousands of bats spiral into the open air, their silhouettes swirling in a living column that warps the sky itself. From a distance, the swarm seems unified, but a closer look reveals a layered architecture. Fruit bats, heavy-bodied and long-winged, peel off toward the forest canopy, navigating with keen eyes and a sense of smell sharp enough to detect ripe guava in the dark. Insectivorous species form tighter clusters, using echolocation clicks to carve mental maps of the airspace, each call bouncing off moths, beetles, mosquitoes, and even raindrops. Their flight paths intersect and split like braided river channels. Somewhere deeper inside the cave, unseen in this first wave, smaller brown shapes cling to the stone, waiting for full darkness to complete their own ascent into the night. Every one of these bats carries more life than its fragile body suggests. Their fur is a miniature habitat crawling with mites, fleas and bat flies. Wingless parasites evolve to sprint through hair like predatory spiders in miniature. Some feed on skin secretions. Others pierce thin membranes around the bat's ears and wings, taking their meals in fractions of droplets. In large colonies, these ectoparasites form entire communities, flowing between individuals as bats roost shoulder to shoulder. Blood parasites travel in the opposite direction. Microscopic organisms circulating inside vessels, replicating in organs, moving from host to host through bites, scratches, or contaminated surfaces. A bat colony is not just a population. It is a biological marketplace, trading pathogens at a scale unmatched in the rainforest. Among the 100+ bat species of the Amazon, only 3 feed on blood. They are small, unassuming, and astonishingly adept at invisible predation. The vampire bats. Their night begins later than the others. Instead of rushing skyward in a mass exodus, they emerge singly or in small groups, flying close to the ground, hugging tree trunks and forest edges. Their echolocation is fine-tuned for precision at short range. Their thermoreceptors, tiny heat-detecting pits on their noses, allow them to perceive warm blood flowing beneath skin. Where other bats hunt movement in the air, vampire bats hunt the temperature gradient of sleeping animals. A camera follows one as it glides silently toward a tapir resting beside a riverbank. The bat lands lightly, almost imperceptibly, on the thick hide near the animal's shoulder. With delicate precision, it walks forward on limbs adapted for crawling, supported by strong thumbs and forearms that allow for quadrupedal movement. It is here, on the skin, that the vampire bat's most specialized behavior begins. Using its razor-sharp incisors, teeth designed not to crush but to slice, the bat shaves a thin patch of hair, clearing a feeding site. Then, with a small controlled bite, it creates a wound no larger than the tip of a pencil. The bat's saliva contains a powerful anticoagulant, a molecule known as draculin, which keeps the blood from clotting. The wound does not close. It bleeds freely, forming a shallow pool from which the bat laps steadily. There is no sucking, no tearing, just a quiet draw of warm blood into the mouth. Most predators kill their prey first. Vampire bats invert the logic entirely. The victim must stay alive, relaxed and unaware for the feeding to continue. But the wound is not sterile. As the bat feeds, its mouth carries bacteria from previous meals. Ectoparasites crawling between bats spread microscopic species of protozoa. Viral particles cling to saliva. Among the most dangerous is the rabies virus, a pathogen perfectly adapted to life inside the nervous system. When introduced through a bite, it travels along peripheral nerves toward the brain, altering behavior, overwhelming neural pathways, and eventually causing paralysis. In remote Amazon communities, outbreaks of rabies have been traced to repeated vampire bat bites on people sleeping in open-walled houses. The victims rarely feel anything more than a mild pinch. Days later, fever sets in. Confusion follows. Once symptoms appear, survival becomes nearly impossible. But rabies is only one piece of a much broader ecological puzzle. Bats harbor countless viruses, many harmless to them, many still unknown to science. Their immune systems are uniquely adapted to tolerate high viral loads. The constant metabolic stress of flight produces reactive oxygen species that would damage cells in other mammals. Bats evolved DNA repair mechanisms, dampened inflammatory responses, and robust antiviral pathways that allow them to coexist with pathogens that would overwhelm humans. In a sense, a bat is a flying paradox. Fragile bones and thin skin carrying biological burdens that would collapse larger, stronger creatures. The sheer density of bat colonies amplifies this effect. In cave roosts, temperatures soar from the collective heat of thousands of bodies pressed together. Droplets of sweat and urine fall in humid mist. Guano piles ferment on the floor, releasing ammonia-rich vapors that rise through the roost. Parasites travel across this living landscape as easily as birds move through the canopy. Insectivorous bats, fruit bats and nectar bats may rarely interact outdoors, but inside the roost, their close proximity facilitates exchanges of microscopic life. Even species that never touch the ground may carry soil fungi stirred up by their wing beats. Every night, when these colonies take flight, they export this microbial load across the rainforest. Yet despite their association with disease, bats are not villains. The Amazon's balance depends on them. Insectivorous bats consume staggering numbers of mosquitoes, beetles and moths, shaping the very dynamics of insect populations. Many fruit bats serve as long-distance seed dispersers, carrying Amazonian tree species far beyond the boundaries of any bird flight path. Some plants rely exclusively on bat pollination, timing their blooms to open only at night to attract their specialized visitors. Without bats, the forest's regenerative engine would stutter, insect plagues would surge, fruiting cycles would falter. The danger bats pose to humans is not rooted in malice, but in interface, where bat ecology overlaps with human vulnerability. As deforestation fragments habitats, bats crowd into fewer roosts. As villages expand, houses built near forest edges become new feeding grounds. Livestock corrals offer warm, stationary targets for vampire bats, and repeated feeding increases the chances of transmitting pathogens. In some communities, people sleep under mosquito nets not only to avoid insects, but to prevent bat bites, a defensive measure for both body and village health. The chapter pivots back to the individual scale. Deep inside a cave, a single vampire bat hangs upside down by 1 foot, grooming its wing membrane. A bat fly crawls across its chest, pausing to feed. Another parasite clings to the fur around the shoulder. Inside its bloodstream, a protozoan replicates silently. The bat is healthy, agile, perfectly functional. But to a larger mammal, human, tapir, dog, a bite from this creature is not the end of an interaction. It is the beginning of a microscopic invasion. Once rabies enters a host, it spreads from cell to cell through neural tissue, bypassing many immune defenses. It changes behavior, disrupts motor control, and finally shuts down the muscles needed for breathing. Infected humans often recall no bite at all. The bat may have fed for 2 minutes and left without waking its host. But the virus remains, multiplying inside the quiet architecture of nerves until symptoms erupt. By then, the path back is nearly non-existent. In the Amazon, where the sound of wings at dusk marks the beginning of the night, bats serve as a reminder that danger is not always feral, visible, or immediate. Sometimes it comes floating on the air, carried by delicate membranes that move with the softness of silk. Sometimes it arrives through a pinprick too small to notice. And sometimes the deadliest predator is one that never intends to kill, only to feed, and in doing so, to introduce an army of microscopic passengers that continue the feast long after the bat has gone.